How to make shared keys.ssh/authorized_keys and sudo work together. I've set up the .ssh/authorized_keys and am able to log in with the new user using the pub/private key. I have also added user to the sudoers list. The problem I have now is when I try to execute a sudo command, something simple like it will prompt me for my password, which I enter, but it doesn't work. I am using the private key password I set. Also, I've disabled the user's password using. What am I missing? Somewhere my initial remarks are being misunderstood. I am trying to harden my system. The ultimate goal is to use pub/private keys to do logins versus simple password authentication. I've figured out how to set all that up via the authorized_keys file. Additionally, I will ultimately prevent server logins through the root account. But before I do that, I need sudo to work for a second user, the user which I will be logging into the system with all the time. For this second user, I want to prevent regular password logins and force only pub/private key logins. If I don't lock the user via password user, then if I don't use a key, I can still get into the server with a regular password. But more importantly, I need to get sudo to work with a pub/private key setup with a user who's had her password disabled. Edit. Okay, I think I've got it, the solution. 1. I've adjusted /etc/ssh/sshd_config and set password authentication no. This will prevent SSH password logins. Be sure to have a working public/private key setup prior to doing this. 2. I've adjusted the sudoers list with sudo and added. 3. Root is the only user account that will have a password. I am testing with 2 user accounts, Demas and Sherry, which do not have a password set. Passwords are blank, password user. The above essentially prevents everyone from logging into the system with passwords. A public/private key must be set up. Additionally, users in the sudoers list have admin abilities. They can also sue to different accounts. So basically, Demas can sudo sue Sherry, however, Demas cannot do sue Sherry. Similarly, any user not in the sudoers list cannot do sue user or sudo sue user. Note the above works but is considered poor security. Any script that is able to access code as the Demas or Sherry users will be able to execute sudo to gain root access. A bug in SSH that allows remote users to log in despite the settings, a remote code execution in something like Firefox, or any other flaw that allows unwanted code to run as the user will now be able to run as root. Sudo should always require a password, or you may as well log in as root instead of some other user.
SSH and sudo have nothing to do with each other. Setting up an SSH authentication method isn't going to do anything for sudo. Sudo isn't going to understand an SSH password. Password L is intended to lock a user's account, so that he can no longer authenticate by password. That's pretty much the opposite of what you want, which is letting the user authenticate without a password. I think what you want is the no password option in your sudoers file. P.S. There's no reason to be running a cd command with sudo. cd does not propagate to parent processes, so as soon as the sudo exits, you're back where you started. Edit. You keep saying that you want to lock the account password and want sudo to understand public/private keys. Sorry, sudo isn't going to use SSH keys. It isn't SSH. If you don't want users to be able to log in with their passwords, I think the answer is to disable SSH password authentication, not to lock the account. Then you can retain a password for the users, which they can use to sudo after they log in via SSH authorized_keys.
What you want to do is possible, but it will require some experience as you will have to compile a PAM module called PAM SSH agent auth. The process is reasonably simple. Edit the sudo configuration. Add the following. Continue by changing the sudo PAM settings. Add, just above the @include lines.
Andre de Miranda's answer provides a nice solution using PAM_SSH_agent_auth, but parts are out of date. particularly the /etc/pam.d/sudo instructions when using many current Linux versions. If you're running Ubuntu 12.04 precise, I've actually simplified the process by providing a pam_ssh_agent_auth build out of a ppa pict/pam/ssh-agent-auth. You can install the package by running After installation, if you'd like to use this PAM module with sudo, you'll have to configure sudo settings and PAM configuration. In Ubuntu 12.04 precise, you can do that by creating the following two files: /etc/sudoers.d/pam/ssh-agent-auth /etc/pam.d/sudo. If you're using Chef, the above process can be automated with my cookbook, found at either of the two following locations. This URL. The cookbooks files directory contains the /etc/pam.d/sudo and /etc/sudoers.d/pam/ssh-agent-auth files described above that work with Ubuntu 12.04 precise and should be a helpful starting point when using other versions/distros.
If you want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing.